Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today I have tons of cards to share with you. We're going to talk about mass-produced floral cards. I have 15 cards with matching envelopes using Altenew August 2022 release products. And I'm going to share some of my favorite tips and tricks for creating or mass producing a lot of cards. So a lot of times if I've got all these products out, I really prefer to create a bunch all at one time as it's a huge time saver. If I'm going to be doing stamp layering like we're going to do with this first set of cards, so this is the brand new Happy Flowers stamp set. There are some coordinating dies for this, and this is stamp layering. I also have a couple of different kinds of cards to share with you today. There's going to be stamp layering, and then there's going to be some stencil layering a little later on. We're going to start with the stamp layering. And what I found is I didn't have an exact card idea when I started. Instead, I picked, I think, 11 trios of Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated ink colors, and that's kind of where I started here. So I took both of the flower images from the Happy Flowers stamp set. I stamped them on cardstock. I've got 11 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panels or approximate panels of cardstock, and I am simply going to stamp each of these in a different color. If you want this to go even faster, stamp them all with the same color, and by not switching colors and not having to clean your stamps, it's going to go a lot faster. The other thing is if you do happen to have multiple Misties, it's so handy because you can simply move your cardstock sheet from one to another really quickly. The great thing about Altenew, if you already have some Altenew products, you probably already know this, they come with beautiful packaging that shows you how to stamp layer everything perfectly, which I always appreciate. Sometimes it's not self-explanatory. I thought this stamp set was actually pretty easy, but sometimes you can stare at it and flip it around and be like, where does that go? Theirs always shows you exactly where everything goes, and it's so well done. So this is going to be kind of a rainbow effect of cards. And as I mentioned a little bit ago, I wasn't altogether sure how I was going to create these card designs. I have another pretty popular video I did a few months ago where I did another set of floral cards with Altenew products. I will link that here on this video at the end of the video if you're interested in checking that out. And for that one, I did a lot of tone-on-tone cards. And a lot of times when I start a project, I maybe even will refer back to something I've done in the past that I have especially liked because it gives me a good starting place. And that was kind of my initial thought when creating these cards, or creating these flowers, pardon me. As I got further into the project, I really kind of changed my mind, and you'll see that as I'm working. So I actually stamped everything first, and it wasn't until I was completely done that I kind of changed my mind about the direction of how the card creation was going to go. I've sped up the video. I am going to show you kind of stamping, the process of working through all of these different panels, stamping all of the layers. I find it extremely satisfying to watch these come to life. If you've never done stamp layering before, it is a fantastic way to get lots of depth and dimension into your stamped images without having to color. Both techniques today don't involve any coloring at all. So for those of you who love to create cards that have dimension, but you don't particularly love coloring, these kind of products, stamp layering and stencil layering, are fantastic. The only color I ended up not using, I actually stamped the panel, but I cut a lot of that out of the video, is yellow. As I got to the end of my stamp layering, I decided to do my flower centers yellow, and I just didn't feel like changing the flower. I didn't particularly love the yellow flower in this case, and so I just kind of threw that one away. So for each flower, let's talk about layers. There are two flower layers, pardon me, a base layer and the layering stamp, which you're seeing right there. And there's two different flowers in this Happy Flowers set. Then for the flower centers, there are two images for that as well. And we are almost to that point. And then for our leaves, there are 4 different leaves combinations in this set, and there are 2 layers per that image as well. So everything is just 2 layers. I guess the flower is 4 if you count the flower center, but I find it really easy because it doesn't have tons and tons of layers. Sometimes there's more layering than that. This is pretty fast since it's not a whole bunch of additional layers. Then there's lots of fantastic greetings. I'm actually not going to use any of the greetings from this stamp set for this set of cards, but I will use one on my next set of cards because there's 3 different sets in this video today. But they're beautiful. I for sure will be using them in the future. Lots of really amazing sentiments. And as I get to putting the cards together and you see the greetings I'm using, I will explain a little bit more why I went that direction with my greetings. Really fast now, I am just booking it through the flower centers. You can see how fast those stamp. I am just moving from one panel to another super, super fast. This is the base layer. I wish it was this fast in real life. Now, I know I talk about this a lot regarding how long does it take to put together a project? I get that question quite often. This is not going to be one of those speedy projects, and it's also a project that was split up over the course of 3 days. In fact, not even 3 days consecutively. A lot of these were created 1 week, and then the others were all created within another week. So it was actually spanned out. I kind of just did them as I had time, and then I came back to it and was like, how do I want to finish these up? So you can also keep that in mind. You don't have to sit and do them all at once. Now, you definitely could. I would say from start to finish, these are going to take you probably a good 5 to 6 hours. Not just this. I'm talking all the cards in this video, and if you followed this, pretty closely, you can definitely leave out parts of it, do whatever you want to do. As with anything that I create, I want to encourage you to make it your own. Change up colors, change up ideas. You don't have to go detailed and do something for the background. I particularly love some sort of interest to a background. I don't always love just a plain cardstock background, and so I usually try to find a way to add some sort of interest, and you're going to see that because I have 3 completely different background techniques for my cards today. I've just slowed it down just a tiny bit now that we're at the leaves, because I wanted to talk to you about how I am utilizing every little bit of space on this 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel. Sorry, my head is in the way. It was real hard to line up one of those leaves apparently. But what I did was I did the flowers kind of catty corner at a diagonal. And then I'm fitting my leaves in all of those other little areas. And because of that, I've used up that whole sheet of cardstock, or that whole little quarter sheet of cardstock. I am all about getting the most out of my cardstock as possible. And I did, remember, I said I hadn't intended to do the design that I ended up with. I'm going to end up with a ton of leaves. I've actually just kept them all because I'm just going to use them on some other cards. I had 1 leftover flower and a whole bunch of leftover leaves, but they will get used because I actually have, from that other video I referenced, I have a bunch of leftover flowers because I did a couple sets there and I never finished putting that other set together. And I'm just going to sit down and do several more cards so that I have even more cards, because I will have some leftover sentiments as well. And I'm, again, all about finishing and making the most of all those little parts and pieces. I am going to layer together here the Simon Says Stamp Diagonal Stripes stencil. It is well loved, y'all. I have loved this stencil. It is stained, but it is an oldie but a goodie. Now, I did find with my first background, because this is actually the second one I did, that I had a little trouble with the lines moving, and that's going to happen sometimes with a stencil. So I took a little pixie spray and sprayed the back of my stencil to hold it in place. I'm also using the Tonic Magnetic Matte to hold my stencil down, and I've used 4 colors of ink to just kind of give a beautiful ombre effect. And I used that diagonal stencil with an A2 masking stencil, and you can kind of see that I'm going to be doing a trio of flowers per card. For me, this just kind of was, it looked really pretty, and I liked the way the different colors played together. And that's what I was talking about, where I stamped a bunch of flowers, I die cut everything all at once. That was kind of the time consuming part. And when I looked at it, I thought, oh, what can we do? Or how do these work together? And I tried to do like monochromatic, and I was like, I don't know. And kind of a happy accident, the flowers, I picked up several different flowers, and I was like, oh, I like this color combination. And so then I played around with color combinations of flowers, and that's how I came to the finished design. Now, I did switch the background colors. I'm going to switch them 3 times. Just the amount of flowers I had enough to do kind of the peachy, pinky red, orange, whatever flower cards. I had enough for 3 cards, so I did 3 of those backgrounds. I had enough of the kind of purple, lavender, bluish color, mostly purple, to do 2 backgrounds, and the blue the same. I had enough to do 2 backgrounds. So I simply switched up my background colors to do this ombre effect of inking, which, another time-saving tip, don't do ombre, just do 1 color. But I kind of liked the ombre effect since we have 3 different colors of blue flowers or purple flowers or pink flowers, whatever. And so I just kind of quickly did this. The masking stencil automatically gives you a fantastic border. So lay down whatever pattern stencil you want to use. If you use a masking stencil, then it automatically frames it up just like you can see here. I can't stress enough that masking stencils are one of my very, very favorite products. Next, I have a couple of sheets, well, 3 sheets, not a couple. I have 3 sheets of white cardstock, and this is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel. And I am taking the brand new Altenew One Go birthday greeting. And it's called One Go because this is one stamp that has tons and tons of greetings. I absolutely love stamps like this. I think they are one of the most useful tools you can have in your arsenal. If you want to be able to stamp a whole bunch of greetings all at once and then die cut them at once. Because when I pull out the die, it is one single die, and it's going to die cut all of these phrases at one time. And I'm going to do this 3 times. I probably wouldn't have had to, but I wanted to make sure I had plenty of options when I got to making my cards. And I stamped these with clear embossing ink and heat embossed with antique gold embossing powder, which is one of my favorites. I thought the gold would be a really pretty look for the floral cards, and I ended up really loving it because I can pull in some other gold accents and things. And we're simply going to heat set this and then run it through the die cutting machine, which I'll show you here in a minute. I would recommend taping it in place so the die doesn't shift. I do that for everything. I did that for every single flower that you see die cut here. And it was a lot of die cutting, you guys. It was a lot of die cutting, but so worth it. And there we go. So I'm gonna line it up, run it through. It's so pretty. I'm going to do this for all 3 because, again, I did 3 of these backgrounds. You will end up with a few extra greetings if you're going to create like I am. And most of these, I think this is called birthday, isn't it? Didn't I just say that? Yeah, it says birthday greetings, but there is like an I love you in here, blessings. enjoy your special day. Some of these could really be used for other occasions. So keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and put it all together. I am not going to put together every single one of these cards on camera because we want to save a little time and we want to see the other ideas. But I do want to show you kind of my general idea of how I mass produce. I did grab foam adhesive because I love me some foam adhesive, and we're going to layer our flowers. I did try to keep the foam adhesive towards the center of each flower so it would be easy to layer them, overlap them, and then we're tucking in the greenery all around our flowers. And I am going to pop these up with foam adhesive. I'm going to pop up my little on the go or one go birthday greetings strips with foam adhesive as well. Anything that's going to hang off of the edge of the panel, I'm just going to flip it over and trim it off with my scissors. And then we're going to layer 2 sentiments per card. That's how many sentiments I have. So many. And I don't know what it is. I feel like I go in phases, but my new phase, new, old, whatever, is adding multiple sentiment strips to cards or multiple sentiments to cards. I always have loved like a die cut greeting or a large greeting with a sentiment strip, and I still do, but I have really been loving kind of the multiple greeting type of card lately. I just think it's really fun. And so these cards kind of feature that. Let's zoom in just a little bit. I'm going to show you adding some gold, pretty pink posh pearls to kind of pick up of the antique gold in the greeting. Also, I did a little hint of mint, Trinity Stamps heart. My little signature heart, had to have a little signature heart on my project. And I'm going to switch the heart colors. There's going to be some Lucy's Little Things hearts on some of the cards. And here at the end, I will show you all of the finished cards. Now, something that has been really important to me, I guess I want to say, or something I've really loved doing over the last couple of years, but I would say it's been a focus in the last 6 months or so, is the creation of coordinating envelopes. And I tried to talk myself out of creating the matching envelopes for the final set of cards today, but I ended up going ahead and doing it, and I'm so glad I did, you guys. It doesn't have to be super hard. Now, I will tell you, this set of envelopes is a little more detailed. But you see all those white die cut shapes there on the right side of the screen? What I did was I took the coordinating die from the Happy Flower set and I die cut the flowers using masking paper. I just straight die cut the masking paper in the flower shapes. Then I've got my set of envelopes and I want them to match my cards. And we've got 7 cards total. 3 of the pink orange color combo, 2 of the purple, and 2 of the blue combo. What I did was I stamped my flower, my big flower, and I'm doing the base first of all my envelopes. I die cut 3 of the large flower and 3 of the next size flower. I want to say big and small, but they're not big and small. They're pretty close in size, but they're just 2 different flowers. And the reason is I don't want to stamp over the same masking masked area 7 times. I think it's going to make my mask, it's going to be really saturated. And so I really kind of just did one for each color combination. So I've stamped the base of my flower for each envelope. Then I am going to add the layering because there is all the layering. To minimize the amount of work here, just do 1 flower. You wouldn't have to do all of this. Remember, this was early on in my process and I was like, let's create all the envelopes. As we went on, I tried to make it a tiny bit easier. We'll see. Okay, once I have that next layer, this is when we're going to need to take the masking stencil and pop it in place. So I'm layering the masking stencil and I'm adding the second flower, and this is the base of the flower. and I've got a separate mask for each color change, and I'm going to use them throughout. If it's not super perfect, it's okay. It's an envelope. It is going to match good enough. And I promise when you see the finished envelopes, I love how they look. They match the cards. I'm really, really excited to be able to mail these out. So September Patreon members, this is probably a good look at the birthday cards that will be coming your way. And there is my kind of pinky purple. And then we'll do the blue. And I really wanted to show this process because even though the mask is slightly larger than the flower, it really does work fantastic. It does cut pretty close to the flower. I'm pretty happy with these particular dies, but just close enough. It doesn't have to be perfect because I promise that finished floral is going to be really pretty. Now, this is something you could do on your cards as well. It doesn't have to be relegated just to an envelope. You could create a card with this same technique. Now I'm ready to add the leaves. I did pick the leaf image that has the two leaves together, and I'm so sorry that I'm a little out of frame because I'm zoomed in too close, but I actually have both leaves, the base leaf and the layering piece in my MISTI. I'm just flipping my envelope around for each, and you can see that this is going to go super fast. And just like that, we're going to move on. And now we don't have to change colors, so it's even quicker. And I'm going to keep moving until I have all 7 envelopes finished. This is a fantastic way to give a really beautiful set of cards. So imagine taking the thank you greeting from the Happy Flowers stamp set, and you could just stamp that on your background instead of doing the stamped embossed and die cut greetings. You could stamp like thank you and make a whole set of thank you cards. Wouldn't these be beautiful, like as wedding thank yous, bridal shower, baby shower thank you cards, or just a nice set of thank you cards to give as a gift? For the flower centers, I did want to go ahead and do the flower centers, but I didn't really feel like setting it up in my MISTI, and so I just went with acrylic blocks, if you can even believe it. It went really fast. I didn't worry too much about super precision here. I did try to line it up. It wasn't that I didn't, but just to get that color down, it looks so good. All of the inks used for my florals today are Simon Says Stamp Pawsitively saturated inks. There's so many beautiful trios of ink colors. I absolutely love them and highly, highly recommend them. And they layer beautifully, as you can see. Okay, once we're all done with our envelopes and our cards, I've adhered all the flowers to the background, I've added all the sentiments and the embellishments. It is time to move on to our next card set. And this card, I actually didn't create 3 different cards. We're going to just do 3 of the same card. So we've got 7 with this first set, and then we're going to have 10 cards total when we do this next set of cards. And I did the same thing for all of these. You could definitely change it up if you wanted to. Oh, here's a little look at all of these finished. I forgot I put this in here. I decided to do another layered masked background, and then this is the Arch of Flowers stamp, die, and stencil set. So there's 3 different products available that coordinate here for the Arch of Flowers. And what I did was I took some Seafoam Simon Says Stamp Pawsitively saturated ink and the A2 masking stencil, and I am going to simply stencil about 3/4 of the way down. I'm not going to go all the way down to the bottom. Now the shape of the arch of flowers has a circular shape down at the bottom, and it has the coordinating die. And I definitely want to use the die. I don't want to stencil over this background today. You could stamp over this and stencil if you wanted to. But because of that circular shape, I don't want those harsh corners in the bottom showing. I want it to be white all the way on the bottom. That's going to be a little more evident here in a minute when I get my flowers stamped and stenciled and die cut and start putting it together, and you can really see why I don't want those little blue points down at the bottom of our panel. And again, just like I stated with the first set of cards, if I have all the products out, I just want to go ahead and do more than one. I always feel like it's a lot more a better use of my time, maybe I want to say, to go ahead and do multiples while I've got everything out. But as much as I love the blue background, my flowers are going to be concentrated in about the bottom 2/3 of this panel. And I really kind of feel like we need something to add a little more interest. You could do splatter. You could do the diagonal stencil again if you wanted to. Whatever the case may be. You could do lots of things. I actually opted to take another stencil, so we're going to do a kind of a design very similar to what I did previously. And I am going to take the medium dots stencil from Simon Says Stamp, another one of my go-tos. This poor guy has been used and abused as well. We're going to layer it over the top so that our layering stays within this little rectangular shape on our card. And I'm going to just simply pop it in place. I'm going to take a little surf ink, a little bit darker, and we're going to go over the top of what we just put down for a beautiful tone-on-tone effect. It's very subtle. It's one of my favorite looks of all time. And I am going to do 3 panels just like this. And with the magnets, it's so super quick. And remember, you don't really want to go any further than what you stenciled before. So don't take them all the way to the bottom, or you're going to have those little polka dots down in the bottom 2 corners. Little hearts, little flower backgrounds, all kinds of different design backgrounds would look really cute with this same technique. I'm a polka dot kind of girl. I love the polka dots. I think they're really fun. Okay, once we have our backgrounds, I'm going to take 3 4¼ by 5½ inch panels and stamp our arch of flowers with Hero Arts Intensified black ink. I want to use a really good ink that's not going to smear when I stencil over the top. This worked really well, and I'm going to do 3 of these panels. You could do as many of them as you want to, however many of these cards that you want to make. I knew that this was going to be a lot of color changes with a lot of small areas, and I kind of feel like that's why I chose to do the least amount of these cards probably. But it does go together pretty quick. Now, as I was looking at this and trying to figure out my coordinating envelope, I needed to figure out a way this would work. And I knew the flower border isn't going to go all the way across my envelope, nor do I really want to try to piece it together or anything like that. I felt like that was kind of a time-consuming thing for an envelope. So I'm actually just going to stamp it along the bottom edge, and you can see only a portion of it is getting stamped. There'll be a little spot that doesn't have any, but I think that's okay. And these envelopes ended up really being cute. They match perfectly, and I'm going to stencil both the arch of flowers full shape and the envelopes at the same time. And that's what I'm going to show next as far as working through that. Now, as far as greetings, I'm not going to use the One Go birthday greetings that I just created. We're going to save those for the last set of cards. I took the hello from the Arch of Flowers, and then I took another phrase from the Happy Flowers, the stamp set we used first, and we're going to stamp that longer phrase on another sheet of white cardstock 3 times, and I will be die cutting that with a Simon Says Stamp Sentiment Labels die to pop up underneath the hello. So the hello was stamped right over the stenciled background. I love it. I love the fonts. I thought they looked really cute together. Okay, now it's time to stencil. And I felt like I had all the inks, all the stencil brushes, all the things. There are 2 stencils in this set and they line up so easily. So this time, because we have so many teeny tiny areas, I am going to use the Simon Says Stamp round detail blending brushes. They're small and you're going to be able to really work that ink into the areas. These are my favorite blending brushes. I absolutely love them. Use them all the time. And I am using a couple shades of ink so that it's a little more detailed than just one color. And you're going to see this throughout. And I am simply going to move from one panel to another, adding color to the greenery. And I'm following the stencil. So I'm doing all of this section and then the next section on this stencil and the next. And that way I'm going to hit everything. And it's going to be 3 card panels and 3 envelopes. Now, sometimes I did wipe off my stencil in between changes if I felt like there was a lot of ink on my stencil and I didn't want to accidentally drag ink all over the panel and maybe smear things. I kept a microfiber cloth handy and I would just kind of wipe it down in between if I felt like it needed it, which you can see that I did a few times here. And then, of course, the envelope, not as much of the images showing on these, but same process throughout. And don't forget to clean up whatever you're working on so you don't accidentally smear it on the back of the envelope while you're working. Next section. I found it easier to start with the card panels first, and I also wanted to do all the green so I could go ahead and put my green ink away and get out the next color combination. And I wanted to go really bright and happy. I love the flowers in this. They're really whimsical, I think. So cute. And again, just working our way through each panel and then each envelope. I am going to speed up the video quite a lot to stencil the rest of these and just save us a little bit of time. But it's going to be the same exact process that I showed here. We're just going to be switching the color combinations and things throughout the rest. This has the flower centers, which I'm going to do in citrine, and then the little like round circles of flowers. And you can see how I just have my 2 little blending brushes moving through each panel, moving through each envelope. I did notice that I missed like one flower center, I think, on one of these cards, but I do come back and fix it later. That's the great thing about stencils, is they are so easy to line back up and fix anything that you might have missed, or add some extra layering or add extra color. For the larger petal flowers, there's going to be 2 stencils each. So see how it's like every other for both of these flowers? Then it'll be every other for the others, and they line up real easy. I'm just going to go through and do all of one. I found it easiest to kind of keep track of where I was at by doing it this way. And we'll do the envelope real quick. And then you simply go to the next section and it's going to do the alternating petals. You could do those in another color if you wanted to. I did mine exactly the same. Looking so cute. Isn't it fun to watch it come to life? Layering stencils for the win, y'all. I love them. One of my favorite products. And then this is kind of a blue-violet color combo. It's one of the newer trios of color. I'm only using a couple colors from it, from Simon Says Stamp, but oh my goodness, so pretty. I know for all my purple loving friends, I tried to put lots of purple into my cards today. These beautiful purple ink colors make it very easy to love. I'm laying out all my ink pads so it's easy to kind of work through without having to take the lid off every single time. And the addition of all of those colors is so pretty. I'm all done. I did die cut my flowers. You can see that they detail die cut beautifully. And this is what I'm talking about, layering it down at the bottom of the panel. So I'm putting liquid glue on this and attaching it, but see how it doesn't have the blue points at the bottom? This was so intentional because I thought that that would detract and take away from that beautiful curved shape. And I love how it turned out. I think the flowers just look, they really pop off of that subtle polka dot background. I'm gonna glue them down, trim off anything hanging off the edge, and then we can simply take some foam adhesive and pop up our little sentiment strip. Again, this was die cut with the Simon Says Stamp Sentiment Labels dies. We can pop that up right under the hello. And then just a couple of really quick and easy things to embellish these cards. Yes, signature heart's going to show up somewhere. So I did put a little heart on the orange flower. I did it in the yellow flower center. And then I'm going to take some limoncello Nouveau jewel drops, and it's a translucent color, not opaque, because I don't really want to change the color of my flower centers. And the other 3 flower centers that don't have the heart, we're going to put the Nouveau jewel drop there and allow that to completely dry. You could use glossy accents, you could use crystal lacquer from Hero Arts. Lots of things are going to give something similar. I just went with something with a yellow tint to it. But that gives the flower centers a little bit of added interest. And then I was looking at the card and I opted to do some pretty Pink Posh white pearls scattered throughout to finish. Okay, you guys, ready for the last set of cards. And remember how earlier I said I wasn't sure that I wanted to create the coordinating envelopes? I'm so glad I did. I tried to talk myself out of it, but I'm so glad that I went ahead and added the envelope. So this is the Dazzling Dahlia. And oh my goodness, so pretty. My cards are going to have a hummingbird. There's also a butterfly option and tons of sentiments. I didn't use the sentiments today, but there's tons of sentiments. This is the tin tile stencil from Simon Says Stamp. I have used it before. I will use it again. It is one of my favorites. I love this stencil. I am taking Distress Oxide inks and I am doing a very quick little stencil, mostly in the center. I'm not going all the way out to the edge, so it's very blurred and kind of light. And we're going to be doing a tone on tone effect. I did this in another video and it's one of my all-time favorite ways to do a background, kind of a recent find that I really love. We're using Kitsch Flamingo, Saltwater Taffy, Speckled Egg is what we have here. We're going to use Salvage Patina and Villainous Potion. And those are the 5 colors. We're going to be doing 5 cards. And once I have done that, I'm going to take the Distress Oxide spray in the same color that you see here, and we are going to spritz it on the background. Sometimes it might be a heavier mist. I know the Kitsch Flamingo, I think, kind of had a heavier mist to it. It really just kind of depends because it's a spray. It's going to be different every single time, and that's okay. But it really kind of makes the background messy and it's distressing, and I find it to be a really fun background. Look how pretty those backgrounds are. So I'm going to shake up my Distress Oxide spray. And this is one that had a really heavy spray because my sprayer kind of clogged, but it's okay because I have a big flower and I can kind of disguise the fact that I got a little aggressive with Kitsch Flamingo. Here's saltwater taffy. Oh, so pretty. I love all the splatter. This is going to be the speckled egg. That was a little bit lighter splatter. I like to use a clear plastic box to catch my spray, and then I literally went to the sink and washed it out as soon as I was done. That was the salvaged patina, and finally Villainous Potion for my purple friends. Isn't this just the most pretty purple color? Oh, I love it. And this is going to be, the droplets are really, really dark. But I promise it looks so good when it's, I was a little worried about it, but it looks so good. I don't know why I wiped that because I took it right to the sink and washed it out. Kind of dumb. On 5 half sheets of 8.5 by 11 paper, so 5.5 by 8.5, I stamped the 3 leaf images and the 2 dahlia images and the hummingbird. And this is another layering stencil set. So the Dazzling Dahlia has the stamp set, the stencils, and the dies are available. And you could color these images with Copics or other color watercolors or colored pencils, whatever your favorite coloring medium is. But if you like to color your images with stencils, if you don't want to take the time to color, it's a fantastic way to quickly and easily add color to your flowers. And again, just like before, I'm doing mine in different color combinations. I am using the Pawsitively saturated inks. The reason being, so I don't necessarily love to do this layering technique with Distress Oxides. Number one, any of the ink that goes over the black outline is going to dull the black outline just because of the properties of the oxide ink. I love the Distress Oxides for backgrounds and even for stamping sentiments and things, but not really for stencil layering. So I went back to Pawsitively saturated inks for my layering here, and I tried to pick colors that I thought would be pretty with the oxide inks. So what I did was I kept my background close to where I was working, and then I pulled my inks and I worked one panel at a time, making sure that I was picking ink colors that looked good. And then I'm going to simply color everything on the panel. I am not going to do all of these on camera just to save some time. I wanted to show you stenciling one set of these. And then I did want to add the hummingbird to each one of my card panels. So we will stencil the hummingbird the same on all. Same thing if you wanted to do the butterfly instead. So just kind of working my way through the panel. Love the bright, fun colors. Now these flowers are pretty big. So this is going to be a big, bold statement on your card. You could do less if you wanted a little bit less on your card front. This pretty much is going to fill the entire A2 sized card front, I feel like. But for my greeting, I have all of the leftover greetings. In fact, you can kind of see them peeking out there on my table. And I'm just going to add one of these to each of my cards to finish it off. And that way I'm using up some of the products that I have already stamped, embossed, and die cut. I love the blues and purples on the hummingbird. So pretty. I did each flower in a different color combination. I thought that would be a little more interesting than having 2 flowers exactly the same. Between each color change, so for each different color combination per card, I did clean my stencils, and I did go clean them with water. I could have wiped them off, but I really wanted to make sure I wasn't cross-contaminating, and so I did go wash them off with water in between each, which added to a little bit of the time-consuming part. If you were going to do all your cards exactly the same, it definitely wouldn't be quite as much work. But I always like to see the rainbow of colors. I don't know about you guys, but I love it. I forgot to do that flower center, which I'll do here in a minute, but I'm just showing you how I matched up each of my flowers with the background. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and die cut everything. So I lined up the dies with the image and then I just ran them through, and I did this 5 times, and then I would just match all of those pieces back up with the background, stack it all together, and very much assembly line style. This is great too if you don't have time to put all of them together. Maybe you do these in parts and pieces over several evenings and you just stack everything together and you can come back to it the next evening. I layered the 2 flowers and one of the leaves together, and then I kind of put adhesive on the back and adhered it down. I did just use tape runner adhesive for these pieces. And then I'm going to pop up my sentiment and the hummingbird with foam adhesive. And I'm going to do this for all 5 card panels. I felt like it would be a little too much to pop up all of the flowers and everything else. Then once I have everything adhered, you can see I used up some of those great One Go birthday greetings. I'm going to add little scattering of glue. We're going to go back to our Pretty Pink Posh gold pearls and scatter those throughout the design. I added a little red heart to my sentiment strip, to each sentiment strip. And I just love the look of the splatter Distress Oxide spray splatter background over the Distress Oxide stenciling, and then the beautiful bold flowers on each. Each of these are going to be adhered to a top fold card base. I use the Simon Says stamp top fold and side fold card bases. Also, they're mini slimline and slimline card bases. They are pre-cut and scored, and they are my absolute favorite. I love them. They're nice heavyweight cardstock. And then I did take 5 white envelopes, and we're going to just do one of the flowers. It really doesn't matter which one. I opted not to do extra leaves and things. You definitely could if you wanted to follow kind of the same instructions from the first set of cards, how I did those envelopes. You definitely could. But with this big bold flower, I felt like it was enough. I'm going to stamp it off the edge in the lower left corner of each of my envelopes with Hero Arts Intensified Black ink. And then I'm going to simply take one of the coordinating flower colors from each card, and I am going to stencil that flower. Very, very quick and easy stenciling. I did not spend tons of time on this, but I have to say that little bit of effort to stamp and stencil the coordinating envelope is worth it. I love how it just finishes the set so beautifully, and it matches, and it just gives a little fun touch. So here I've got my cards, and I am going to stencil them quickly. And it's always a trick figuring out how to line it up that first time, I think, depending on how you stamped it. Then once I have inked all 5 of my envelopes up, I'm going to show you just a quick little walkthrough of all 15 cards. And it was really fun to do a ton of floral cards today and show you lots of different ways to mass produce different card designs. Here is a kind of a look back. So here are the Dazzling Dahlia cards that I just created. This is the Arch of Flowers. And then finally, we have our Happy Flowers with the One Go birthday greetings. So lots and lots of fantastic brand new products from Altenew. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this mass-produced floral cards video featuring August 2022 Altenew products. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Altenew products that you might be interested in. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my Patreon members. If you would like to become a member of Patreon, please click the link in the description below. We would love to have you over there as part of our community. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, and don't forget to click the notification bell to always be notified when I have a new card making video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.